to the beef. Sit back and listen to the beef. Now sit back and listen to the beef.
Nice ride over there, not gonna lie, man. The countryside where we went through, very, very nice area of Ohio. I've never really seen before.
Gobbo is too afraid of being left in the woods to actually go out to the woods. What is goody good, my friends, my fam, all my peeps? I hope you're doing wonderful. Welcome to Mrbeefy's Archives, where we have the meats and the receipts, and we cover the odd people and some creeps. Before we jump into the video, be sure to like and subscribe so we can grow the channel. Now, on to today's video. Today's video is coming from Raxology, and it is titled Truth About Why Me and My Sweetheart Christina Are No Longer Together, dated 4/6/2018. So it's almost, damn, wow, I can't believe it's been almost 10 years. Gobbo has been going through the ringer for a long time. Boy, anyways, that's the rundown. Let's move.
My ex, Christina, well, day before yesterday, actually, now. And, like, why I miss her. And, what happened. Well, We got together, everything was good. And, we were dating for the longest time. Like, we were happy, we were going to concerts together and stuff. And it just happened to be that her birthday was coming up that week. So, we decided to go to the bowling alley downtown for her birthday. We had everything planned out. And, we went over to her parents' house. And so, they came over, picked us up.
Shit, I don't know about that. If I was a father of a daughter and she tried to bring this thing into my car, my household, I would have to bitch my daughter out about bringing home, diseased strays. You're supposed to put them down or call somebody to put them down.
Went over to, from my house to her grandparents' house. Nice right over there, not gonna lie, man. The countryside where we went through, very, very nice area of Ohio. I've never really seen before. Very nice area. Well, we get over there. Everything's going good. We're hanging out, having fun. You know, we're sitting there outside playing around with her nephew her nephew, who at the time would basically be my nephew, because, we were together.
No, that is not how that works. Just because you're with somebody, you don't automatically become their family and you don't automatically adopt their family members. That is so disturbing. Somebody who's like that, you can absolutely never trust.
Now, as you guys know, a lot of people have always called me the Goblin King. We're sitting there and playing with our nephew and just having fun. Just watching TV and relax before it's time to head to the bowling alley. Well, we eat dinner, at our grandparents' house, and, from there we head to the bowling alley. Well, the thing about the bowling alley is, I'm going to backtrack a little bit here, because her family drinks, and she sat right there in front of myself, and, basically everybody who was here at the time, like my older brother, even my best friend Eric, who was here as well, because he was staying the weekend, we were just hanging out and bullshitting around. Well, she sat right there in front of all of us, told us that she didn't want to drink. But and we were like, good, like for your 21st birthday, that's great that you want to break that cycle of, you being the first person in your family to not want to drink.
Gabo should have aimed to try to break the family tradition of, PDFing. Being a third gen, that's impressive, but not in a good way.
Well, and yeah, my dad was a racist, so fucking what? Everybody knows this. Like, my mom supported her. I supported her, obviously, 110% as well, because, I know what that's like. And to be in that spot, because, my dad drank, or drinks, I should say. And that's a large part as to why me and him no longer have a relationship, due to his drinking. But anyways, back to where we left off, we get to the bowling alley.
He saw the pins, he started thinking of his family, got a little homesick.
And, me and her sitting there talking, just waiting for everybody to get signed in. We had signed in, gotten our bowling shoes and all that shit. So we're like, okay, whatever. We all get to the bowling alley and da-da-da-da. And mind you, Eric went home at
Alcohol is the worst thing ever. I don't like it either, but he acts like it's like meth level bad.
Cause like, oh, like it's your 21st birthday, da 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 da, yada yada yada, blah 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 blah, and like I told them, I'm like, look, y'all need to fuck off. She sat right there and told me in front of everybody that she did not want to drink on her birthday, and me and her aunt got into it really fucking big time. Actually, like it got to the point to where I almost got us thrown out because her aunt was a real fucking bitch.
She said, you can't bring those wild creatures in here.
And, we were just like, all right, and obviously I got upset. And, when she did that, I was like, what are you doing? Like, because like when she did that, flashbacks of my dad came back, which really set me off. Because, like, and I didn't mean to go off. I really didn't. But, with my dad doing what he did, because my dad was, not just a regular drunk. Like, he was one of those drunks that went back and forth between being very, very violent and just all around stupid and funny.
He's talking about Gordon. If Gordon really wanted to fuck up the goblin, he could have done it. No problem. He didn't need alcohol.
So, it really fucked with my head. It was like a guessing game with him. Like, which drunk is he this time? Is he the mean, fucked up, want to fuck you up and always wanting to fight drunk? Or is he the drunk that's just going to make you laugh like a fucking idiot? And, and when that happened, it kind of triggered that. And I tried telling her, I'm like, look, don't do this. Like, what you said. Like, you wanted to break the cycle. And she's like, I know. Like, they pressured me into it. And I didn't blame her. I blamed her aunt, more or less. I was like, look. I walked up to her aunt. I was like, look, she sat right there in front of my family. Told me straight up that she did not want to drink. For her 21st birthday, she wanted to break that cycle, and you're sitting here fucking ruining that. And her aunt was like, oh, I don't give a shit, it's your 21st birthday, it's a rite of passage, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, bitch, whatever. And, me and her aunt got into it. And, Christina went back to drinking her drink, and my stupid ass at that time was still heated, but I looked at Christina, I'm like, look, you got two choices right now. You can either, go against your mom, your dad, your aunt, and do like we talked about and just put down the drink and, walk away from all this, and we can go back to my house, we can hang out, we can do whatever you want to do. Like, we can go wherever the fuck you want to go.
Oh, he definitely wanted her back at Sally's.
And unfortunately, her family wouldn't let her do that, and they basically made her go back to drinking her drink, which I ultimately wound up going home that night very upset.
Very blue-balled, he said. Very angry.
Because I told her, I was like, look, it's either going to be me or that fucking drink. Like, if you continue to drink, we are, I can't do this. Like, I can't be around somebody who, drinks like that. And ultimately, that's not my fault. It's actually because of my dad. And I tried explaining that to her family. I tried explaining that to everybody that was involved.
Get the fuck out of here. Who's the king? You are? Then run away now. And shut the fuck up. Bye.
And, next day came around after the whole incident. And me and her talked a little bit, and it turned out her family basically did not want me and her being together. And I was like, alright, that's not fair, but, I can kind of understand. But at the same time, it's, really, really unfair to her, because, she wanted to be with me, really badly again. She wanted to make things right and pick up where we left off, which I was totally okay with.
Oh, you're still talking to kids, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. No, I'm not.
And, we had split and stuff, which, that didn't like really hurt so much. Cause you know, me and her were talking about getting back together after everything. After the day after the incident at the bowling alley, you know, he sits there and is talking to her, I guess. She had, you know, basically left. When in all reality, it wasn't. It was on him and her family.
Of course it was never Goblin's fault. These people, they never take any responsibility for their actions and what they do.
And, you know, and the reason why I made that post is because the other day, like, you know, sorry about that, guys. Like, you know, the other day, you know, supported everything I did. You know, she was actually at the point to where, you know, I was actually saying fuck it and actually looking for a regular job. You know, before the incident with my mom being hit by a car came out. You know, at that point, I was looking for a job. You know, I was going for my GED. She was helping me with that. And, you know, I had everything going for me. I had my music career on track. You know, she was supporting me 110% of the time on that. During that time period when she did what she did, I was a professional streamer on Twitch. I was making $100 some odd a month and doing good for myself. Incident, and that, you know, I apologize and that just all this stuff. But all I could fucking do was just sit there, you know, on my Chromebook and just holding it together, just trying as hard as I motherfucking could to not break down into tears.
I don't think the goblin can legit cry anymore. At this point, I don't think real tears ever come out.
I go to bed at night, bawling my eyes out as a grown man.
Cause mom looked at me and she's like, "What's wrong? Like, why'd you turn away?" I was like, cause I looked over, I was actually on my Chromebook on the thing, and I seen her walking towards the bus, so I got up and went to the corner where the window was at, where you can see our bus going out at. I got up, went over there, and I looked down, I'm just like, oh, never mind, I can't do this. And mom's like, what? And I'm like, Christina's here. She's like, what? I'm like, yeah, Christina's here. I just seen her walk towards her bus. And like, that's all I could do is just sit there and, you know, and keep from breaking down into tears. Like, it took everything, every ounce of my physical being to not get up out of that motherfucking chair and go over to her and talk to her. Because I knew that if I did, you know, my ex-best friend Eric would be soon to follow right fucking behind her.
And that would be the only reason the goblin would go and do anything. Otherwise, he ain't making no moves. He has to have some kind of reassurance he's safe.
So, like, you know, I didn't do a damn thing. I just literally sat there on Facebook, on here. You know, obviously not on live stream, but like, I just sat here just, you know, just on Facebook talking to people until I got home. And literally all I could fucking do after that was just sit in my room and just sit on my bed and just staring down, just asking myself why. Yeah, I exposed myself to Marty on camera, and guess what? I'm proud that I did that. You know, and it took me back to me introducing her to my best friend at that time. And I was just like, why was I so stupid to do that? Why did I introduce those two? And, I just kept on thinking and thinking, like, maybe if I hadn't introduced those two, maybe this wouldn't have happened.
And like I said, I don't follow society's norms. I don't follow the same song and dance bullshit that society follows.
But, I also come to find out that while me and her were together, her and him were fucking texting each other behind my back, and I didn't know it. I found out from a good friend of mine who knows Eric, who's seen the text. And it saddened me. Like, it really did. Like, it made me sick. That the entire time that I was with her, that her and him were secretly, texting each other.
Above all else, I am an athlete.
And I read all the texts. And he basically took her away from me. He basically convinced her to be with him.
How can I abuse you if I never met you in real life, bitch?
And does it still hurt to this day? Yes, it does. Because that's the one girl that my mom very, very, very much approved of. That's somebody that she dearly loved. That's somebody that I'd known since high school. That's somebody that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. We did talk about getting married and stuff like that.
Shit, I bet he was with somebody new after a month.
I'm just speaking facts. I've had more girlfriends than you've been married, bro.
And after her birthday, after we had gotten back to my house, or actually more or less to her house, because we were supposed to go over to her parents' house right after the bowling alley, I was going to talk to her. And I was going to pop the question. Even though, I didn't have a ring on hand, I was going to, ask her, to marry me because, like, we were literally, like, we were in love with each other. Like, we had known each other since high school, so, we already knew each other very, very well at that point. So, why not? We were in love with each other and, everything else, so, why not?
Shit, all those girls look back with so much relief that they dodged that bullet.
And it didn't turn out like that. And, and he still blames me, saying that it's all my fault, when in reality it's his and her family's. Yes, me getting upset you know, superior in any way. On fighting games. You know, clarifies why I made that post that I made the other day that I made. Anyways, guys, I'm gonna hop off here. You know, maybe sit down. You know, I might watch, I don't know. Like, I might watch some anime. I may try working on a dubstep song. I don't know. All I know is that, you know, I'm glad I finally spoke the truth with you guys about what really happened. But y'all, I love you guys, and I will see you guys later on. Probably in the morning. I don't know. I may do another live stream later on. It depends. Either way, I love you guys, and I'll see you guys later.
Oh, Gabo, he be going through women like Lump goes through diapers. And it's shocking the record that he has. Like, it's over the double digits. He's deep in the double digits. And none of it has any, like, meaning. There's never a real connection. It's all just very superficial, however that can be, and just emptiness. Let me know below, what do you guys think? This is the end of the video. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Seriously. And thank you for all the likes, the subs, sharing the video, all that. It really means the world to me. As usual, it's all about attitude. There is no progress without struggle, so stay in there. I've been your host, Mrbeefy, and you all have been fantastic.
Roll up to my goddamn house. Show the fuck up. Come knock on my door. Show up. And say to my face,